moving, yeah. Yeah, they're standing. You can't hear me there?
Mayor, we have sound now. Yeah.
Got it working? So now you're.
It went off again. Oh. I'm like, no. Yeah.
Walking around and saying hello to everyone, but again, thank you. Things happen, technical difficulties. Madam Clerk, would you please do a roll call?
Councilmember Chavez?
Present.
Councilmember Cornejo? Here. I believe Councilmember Ornelas is here, but may be away from the dais at the moment, but I will come back to that. Or would you like to hold on?
Let's hold up. Didn't even-
We'll hold on roll call.
Sorry.
Point of inquiry, real quick. How many public comments do we have?
Just one.
And it's just on one agenda item?
Just general comment.
Okay.
Okay. We're back from the break. My apologies for starting without you, Councilmember Ornelas. Madam Clerk, would you please do a roll call?
Yes. I will start over with roll call.
Thank you.
Councilmember Chavez? Present. Councilmember Cornejo? Here. Councilmember Ornelas? Here. Mayor Flores?
Here.
And Vice Mayor Crossway is absent.
All right, thank you. From our city attorney, a closed session report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This evening, City Council recessed into closed session on item 5A on the special agenda, public employee performance evaluation pursuant to Government Code 54957B1, title City Manager. There were no reportable actions taken. This concludes my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next one we have is public comment, and Dee Dee Chambers. And this is just general comment. Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
Everyone, council members. The reason I'm here tonight is quite a few people have asked me to see if at some point very soon we can get some clarification on the firework issue that's going on here in town, trying to blow up the night skies, east end of town, 10, 11 o'clock at night, they start blowing up. I happen to be a manager for the Senior Citizen Mobile Home Park. The other night when they went off, it was a Saturday night, I had 3 phone calls, one from a war vet whose PTSD had him laying in his bathroom floor. The lady called telling me that her dog was dying of a heart attack, and the other lady just sat on the phone and cried. When I spoke to an officer the next day, he says, "Dee Dee, there's nothing we can do." Well, wait, I know you guys can get fines. Well, not unless we see them, and they're doing it in the backyards. Okay, well, I'll find out which backyards they are, and I'll go and sit in front of the house, and, well, Dee Dee, it really doesn't matter if we give them a fine. Why doesn't it matter? Because it's not gonna go anywhere. We'll send them another, if they don't pay it, we'll send them a second warning that, they have to pay it, but that's as far as it goes. Well, what do you mean? You guys don't go for a third warning? No. So I called down here to the city hall and asked finance, what happens if they don't pay the second? Well, I don't know what you're talking about. So I asked, oh, I don't know. Have to call the police department. So if we could get some kind of clarification, because the fireworks are crazy, and I know everybody complains about them, and people are getting angry at our officers, and there's no reason for them to get angry at our officers. Our officers, what can they do if it only goes as far as them? And I hate to see people talk smack about our officers when it's not their fault. They're doing the best they can. So if we could maybe do something and put it on an agenda or something and just talk about it, because we've got to get something done. So that's just what I have to say. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? We do have the chief of police here, and I would ask the chief when, at some point this evening, maybe come up and talk to you about some efforts that may be going on. And I'm sure we're 3 months away from the 4th of July, and I'm sure we'll get some kind of update from our police and fire. In fact, our fire chief is here tonight, but I don't know if his presentation talks at all about fireworks, but certainly that's a topic worthy of a discussion as we get closer to the 4th of July.
Well, I'll contact, I've got to leave, so, but I will, okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Dee Dee. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we will move on to the next item, which is presentations. This evening, we have the National Fair Housing Month proclamation, and what we have here is VCCAR President Jerry Becker and VCCR member Julio Gomez, and possibly Kay Wilson Bolton may also be in attendance. What I'd like to do is I have the National Fair Housing Proclamation. I'll read it, and then I'd like to come down and present it to you. No problem. Good evening.
Technical difficulties.
All right. Did you want to say something before I read the proclamation or after?
I can say something.
Sure. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Jerry Becker. I'm the president of Ventura County Coastal Association of Realtors. And thank you, council members, mayor, and community. On behalf of Ventura County Coastal Association of Realtors, I'm honored to accept this proclamation from your city during Fair Housing Month. Fair housing, as you know, is more than policy. It's a promise. It's a promise that everyone deserves access to opportunity, dignity, and a place to call home. While headlines today revolve around affordability, supply, and cost, and it can feel unclear, one thing is certain: real progress happens when we work together locally. The City of Santa Paula and our association share a responsibility to lead with clarity, collaboration, and purpose. Together, we can ensure that fair housing is not just protected, but advanced and activated for every member of this community. And together, we are so very happy to move forward with you, City of Santa Paula, with fairness, integrity, and purpose. Thank you so very, very much. We also wanted to invite everyone to the Fair Housing Forum. This year, it is in Ventura at the Museum of Ventura County, and it is hosted by our association, VCCAR, and this time the City of Ventura. Last time it was with you. Thank you. And it will be April 22nd from 11:30 to 3 p.m. And we hope that everyone can attend.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
very welcome. And with that, let me read the proclamation. City of Santa Paula Fair Housing Proclamation. Whereas the City of Santa Paula declares that fair housing is a fundamental human and civil rights essential to the public health, safety, and welfare of the community and to the creation, preservation, and strengthening of stable, diverse, and inclusive neighborhoods. And whereas the city affirms its obligations under the Federal Fair Housing Act, the California Fair Employment and Housing Act, and all applicable federal, state, and local laws prohibiting discrimination in housing. And whereas the city is committed to the fair, consistent, and diligent enforcement of laws that prohibit discrimination in the sale, rental, leasing, financing, and provision of housing and housing-related services on the basis of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, gender identity or expression, sexual orientation, familial status, disability, age, marital status, military or veteran status, source of income, or any other protected characteristic. And whereas the city recognizes that historic and systemic discrimination, including redlining and other exclusionary practices, has limited housing access for many residents and affirms its responsibility to affirmatively further fair housing and address such inequities. And whereas the city recognizes that access to safe, decent, accessible, and affordable housing is vital to economic mobility, educational opportunity, environmental quality, and public health, and is integral to the overall vitality and resilience of the community. And whereas the city actively collaborates with public agencies, nonprofit organizations, housing providers, and community partners to promote equal housing opportunity, expand awareness of fair housing rights, and prevent discriminatory practices. And whereas the city affirms that promoting fair housing is a core governmental function and a continuing policy priority necessary to ensure equity, opportunity, inclusion, and justice for all residents of Santa Paula. Now therefore, I, Carlos Flores, Mayor of the City of Santa Paula, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim and reaffirm the city's strong and ongoing commitment to fair housing and equal housing opportunity for all. The city shall continue to implement, administer, and enforce all applicable fair housing laws and policies, and shall take proactive and affirmative actions to eliminate discrimination in housing. The city further commits to advancing policies, programs, and initiatives that expand access to safe, decent, and affordable housing for all persons, including members of protected classes. The city calls upon all residents, property owners, housing providers, lenders, developers, and businesses to fully comply with fair housing laws and to actively support inclusive, equitable, and non-discriminatory housing practices. The city also encourages public agencies, private partners, and nonprofit organizations to strengthen collaboration in advancing fair housing and expanding housing opportunity. Be it further proclaimed that the city will continue to educate the public on fair housing rights and responsibilities and will support ongoing efforts to remove barriers to housing, address disparities, and foster inclusive, welcoming communities for all. Dated 26th of March 2026, Carlos Flores, Mayor of Santa Paula. And with that, I'd like to come down and present this to you, and I'd like the council to join me because we all support fair housing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Mayor.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to item 7B, Ventura County Fire Department. Chief Williams.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City staff, and members of the public. I usually do a quarterly review when I do these presentations, but this will be more of a summary of 2025. So last year, if you look in the center there, it says total calls for service by quarter. Except for quarters 2 and 3, call volume is usually climbs a little bit. I'll show you another slide in a minute. It'll show the trend. And since 2018, when the city was annexed with the fire department, it's gone up by about 17%, and I'll be able to show that to you in a little bit. I also going to be showing you as well as our Fire Prevention Bureau statistics, and you'll see that on the left in the middle there, 698 total inspection activities. If you see in the middle where it says City of Santa Paula wildfires, 7, although it says a 250% increase over a total of 7 total, it's not that much. Where that may differ is, a lot of times you'll hear us in the river bottom off 12th Street for some of those fires down in there. They may not reach the acreage, or they may not come out as a wildfire or a brush fire. It may be more of a nuisance fire or a warming fire. And so you'll see some of that under the other fires. Far right side, total type of incidents we have, the majority of the calls we run are 78% are medical. Fire is about 2.1%. But when we look at our man hours, fires usually take the majority of that time. Okay, this graph has not changed in 4 years. Santa Paula's had 5% of the calls of the fire district in this time. But one thing to consider is the unincorporated areas that surround your city. So you have the Todd Rail Jail, you have the 126 corridor, both engine and rescue ambulance 26 and engine 29 are going out of the city a little bit to capture these calls. So their numbers will be a little bit higher. And here is a look at, if you're curious of what times of day we get the most call, it's that 11 o'clock in the morning. And it kind of obviously was people, bless you. As people coming home from work and go to bed, it slows down, but you can see kind of the peak periods of when we get our incidents. There's a heat map of where the majority of the calls within the city limits are located. So it looks like a big blur because they're fairly well spaced out. 2025, as I mentioned, the large majority of the calls we run are medical, and those are the types on that list there. So here's the slide I mentioned previously that shows the trend line. So that's approximately 17% since 2018. And countywide growth of calls is about 2.5% a year. So you guys are exactly in the rest of the county in its growth and as busy as we get with increase of calls. So here's a look at the medical call types we run. Although sick person is the highest at 17.1, that doesn't necessarily mean somebody has the flu and they're calling. Somebody feels crummy, we go out, we put them on a cardiac monitor, and we find out they're feeling crummy because they're in AFib and they have a dysrhythmia. So then it's now a cardiac call. But it didn't get typed at that coming from the dispatcher. So a little bit misleading there on the type of calls. Some others there we can see 2.5 to 2.8% overdose poisoning. That stays approximately standard for all the times I've been following it. This will show next slide will show 2024 and 25. And some variations, but not a lot. If you see any numbers here that stand out to you and you're maybe looking for a further explanation, feel free to ask. Okay, I mentioned that I was going to talk a little bit about our Prevention Bureau. Here's showing the last 2 years of their activity in the city. One of the things I did notice on here, if you look at fire code violations, 2024 were 15 and this last year was 4. We get those from referrals. So either other businesses or engine companies that are out in the field are going to see something. Either somebody calls it in and maybe is a complaint and it gets further follow-up inspection, or our engine companies are out and maybe you're in a business and they see something. Exit lights out, something like that, and they'll have our prevention folks. If they don't fix it on scene at the time, they'll have somebody come out and investigate. New construction, you can see the growth there. So inspections on new construction. Planning development, I think, and I'm not a prevention expert, but I think that'll be larger developments. Obviously, East Area 1, the Harvest area, and then obviously probably large complexes, condos, and apartments. So I was talking about calls we run outside of the city area, but local engine companies are responding to. This one I think that's the first video, and then the second. It'll go repeat because it's a GIF, not a full video. See how it's like smaller. That explosion you see there is magnesium. It's commonly found in steering columns and engine blocks. Reacts with water when you apply water. That firefighter's standing off at a 45 a little bit because front bumpers and the hood has gas shocks on them. They're known to explode and shoot forward. So he's in the right position there on the side. About a month ago, I know the top is covered up with the graphic there, but we had a technical rescue. On the picture on the left there, you can see that's a boom, and you can see on the right is I guess what would you call it, the carriage that he's riding in. So it started to buckle. It looks like it's maybe 75 feet in the air. This is a joint effort with us. Obviously, Ventura City Fire is in between the two districts. We have a closest resource response criteria, so all resources that respond are whoever's closest to the call. That was a USAR call, or technical rescue, so our USAR team went out there. You can kind of, on that bottom left, you can see a line going off to the side of the crane or the boom there. That thing has been back tied off, so it will not continue to go, and it has more back ties on the base. So then they threw the aerial after they secured the boom, and then they went up there and got him. He was unharmed. This is kind of a cool, this was last November, but got a call about fixing a halyard. The halyard is the rope system that's at the top of a flagpole, and on top of the bell tower, the halyard was busted, so we got a phone call. This is a ladder company from Camarillo, because yours isn't here yet, that came out and threw a 105-foot aerial from across the street. You see where it's spotted across the street by the bank, and firefighter climbed up there, and those things shake when you get to the top. They're not that stable. They move around a little bit. And one other thing I did notice, I was reviewing this morning, is the bells on the outside of the tower. Do you see it there?
Yeah,
I'd never seen that because it's the backside.
you can't see it, yeah.
So the guys like doing it. And they got a picture up there in the middle. Okay, so truck 29, which is your truck, is here. It is actually going in service at Fire Station 27 in the end of May because we need to get it running, make sure it works good. So the crew, it'll be coming here in August when the fire station is completed, but truck 29 will be in service at Fulmer Fire Station 27 of ours, and it'll be there for the summer until it opens up. So speaking of station construction, that is 2 years ago in July when we broke ground, or a little bit after.
Whoa.
What is that? Looks like December of 26. We got all of our rain.
That's cool.
It's big too. This is the backside. It's got the masonry up now. It's kind of cool. A lot of the concrete in the back is down. And we'll finish with this. Dan and I, the city manager, were having a conversation about the years on here. And I thought I knew what it was, and I was correct, but it says founded in the middle, and on the right is 1928. That's Ventura County Fire was founded in 1928. We've had 3 headquarters here in town. In 1903 was Santa Paula Fire Department was founded, so both years are up there, and will be forever. End of report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief, for that presentation. Questions or comments from council? Well, I guess a question probably lingering in everybody's mind is with 4th of July and New Year's Eve and all that, does the county do anything countywide for fireworks? I know you can't do enforcement, but any proactive or fire-related?
Other than our
education?
PR campaigns, there isn't anything we've done different. I do know that the city of Oxnard had drone surveillance program last year, and they were using that to surveil where, like the speaker earlier had talked about, you can't do anything that's in the backyard, but a drone flight will be able to see that. But that's a whole different, that's a law enforcement deal, and and then you get to deal with privacy and issues like that, so.
All
I do
right.
know that that's one of the things people are doing.
All right. Thank you, Chief, for your report.
You're welcome.
All right. Now we move on to city council reports. If we could go and start with Councilmember Cornejo.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things since the last meeting. On March 19th, as vice chair, I did chair the VCOG, Ventura Council of Governments Administrative Committee by Zoom as our chair. Mayor Tennyson was not available. On the 25th, I attended and enjoyed socializing with the city at the Employee Appreciation Lunch. And then on the 30th, I met on invitation by residents to listen to concerns about the cannabis meeting coming up next Monday. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Chavez, you have anything you'd like to add?
I'll provide my written report. I'm just going to add two things for the public's interest. One, at the last city council meeting, I made a request for a future agenda item to talk about the roadmap for our future growth, as there's been many community concerns about growth, traffic patterns, safety issues, and so the council and the mayor agreed to conduct a future study session, so we want to make sure that the residents know that there's a strategic plan around how we're going to adapt to new housing, its impact on traffic patterns, and overall public safety. Recently, I was invited by the Mexican consulate to join 19 other elected officials from Southern California for a bi-national foreign relations tour through the border, Ensenada, and Valle de Guadalupe. And we got a chance to meet mayors from the various cities, build relationships, and one of the things that I've been planting the seed for these last 3 years was the idea of having a sister city program so we could strengthen our relationship with our largest trade partner, which is Mexico. And so that was very positive interaction, and that's all I have for the moment.
Councilmember Chavez, thank you for your report. Councilmember Ornelas.
I always forget something, but I don't think I have anything to report this time.
All right, very good, thank you. I have a few things. I also attended the employee birthday lunch on the 19th. I think you might have heard at the last council meeting, our city manager announced that he and I were going to go to Washington, D.C. to try to lobby for some money for the police radio upgrade, the 700 megahertz, and the encrypted radio system, which is about $1.2 million. And we did meet with the staff of Adam Schiff and Alex Padilla, and at the end of the day, Julia Brownlee actually sat down with us for half an hour. She's always been very supportive, and we're hopeful that our request will be one of the 1,300 that they've received, but we'll see, because we believe that she's pretty supportive of us. I did see Councilmember Cornejo at McDonald's on the 26th for Coffee with a Cop. Any chance to get free coffee and donuts, although they didn't have donuts there, but we had coffee, and it was well attended by not only the police, but a lot of community members were in there asking questions and talking to the officers. I attended the Chamber Mixer at Santa Paula Sellers on the 26th, the Parks and Recreation Commission, which occurred on the 26th, the third or fourth Thursday of the month. And they just, Director Barnes gave the presentation that he gave to the council about everything the Parks and Rec do, and believe me, they do a lot. It's just not parks, it's buildings, it's programs, it's youth, it's seniors. So, and then the ad hoc committee was talking about hopefully a future dog park. I went to the Business Connect on the 27th, which we went up here to Full Scale Hot Rod Customs, 1117 East Main. If you haven't been there, what a phenomenal location where they, the men that work there restore hot rod cars. Just fantastic to go in there. If you walked in there, I'm sure they'd give you a tour. And lastly, I was able to give to a new hire of the police department, Officer Cesar Ayala, a brief history lesson of the history of the police department, which the chief, I'm honored to do, and the chief allows me to do whenever they hire a new employee. So that's my report. Now I'd pass this on to the city manager's reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It was a pleasure joining the mayor and advocating for our little town in Washington, D.C. We had a very, I think, meaningful trip. And then I came back and I serve on the League of Cities Revenue and Taxation Policy Committee. So I was down in Orange County the next day talking about revenues and taxation matters. I did want to point out at our last council meeting, Councilwoman Cornejo had said once the point in time count for homelessness comes out, if I could make sure that gets shared with the council. Well, I was out of town, but thank you to the chief of police for distributing that report as soon as it was released, I think the Friday before last, and our numbers continue to decline. As is true countywide, the county is down about 11% year over year in the number of homeless. Santa Paula's number dropped more like 22%. So we're really pleased to see that. It says that a lot of what we're doing and the investment that you've all made is really paying off. And then finally, I just want to announce for the public's sake that the council will have an opportunity this coming Monday to convene in a special meeting. That meeting will be solely for the purpose of discussing a recommendation from the Cannabis Standing Committee for the whole council to consider possibly placing a ballot measure on the ballot to allow retail cannabis to exist in the city. So that meeting is a special meeting because we expect a large turnout. We'll hold it at the community center at 6:30. It will be televised, it will be recorded, it will be translated. We have material out on the website, city's website, and the staff report and packet should be released by the end of the day tomorrow in preparation for that Monday meeting. So just wanted to be sure everyone knows there's an opportunity to come out and have your voice heard. That ends my report.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Singer.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I have a question for
Go
the
ahead.
city manager real quick.
Go ahead, Councilmember.
Can you just share if there's been any follow-up regarding the community concerns that were shared at the last meeting?
So a couple of things. There was a meeting this morning with Chamber and other members of the business community in preparation for the PBID meeting next Wednesday. We have, under James Mason's suggestion, if you will, or guidance, he is suggesting a revision to the facade improvement program that might make it a lot easier for applicants to proceed through the process and not have the burdens of prevailing wage and other things. I need to be careful not to get too much in the weeds on it tonight. Once we hear from the PBID, we'll probably need to come back to the council if the program is to change. I've also reached out to Mr. Melgar, who spoke on behalf of a number of businesses. We have a tentative meeting set for next Thursday, and he's going to invite a number of downtown merchants to that.
Thank you for that update.
Thank you for asking that, Councilmember Chavez. And I did ask the city manager if he could include whatever he could in our Friday updates regarding that concern as well. Thank you. We move on to the item number 10, the consent calendar. This is background information that's provided to the city council on all matters listed under the consent calendar. And these items are considered to be routine by the city council and are normally approved by one motion. If discussion is requested by a council member on any item or a member of the public wishes to comment on an item, that item may be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. So with that, is there any item on the consent calendar that a council member would like to either ask a question on or pull? Councilmember Cornejo?
Something very minor on item 10D, and I already mentioned it to city manager. It was just the order of things as they were noted in the minutes, that we had a motion, and then we had it noted that Councilmember Chavez requested that it be pulled, and so it needed to be the other order, that it be pulled, and then we had the motion. So it was more of a clerical than anything else. I just want to make note of that. So.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else?
Motion to approve?
Been moved by Councilmember Chavez to approve the
Second.
consent calendar and seconded by Councilmember Cornejo. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. That item passes. We're going to move on now to 11, public hearing. This is going to be 11A, first reading of the ordinance to regulate successive rent increase applications. City Clerk, do we have a verification of posting?
This item was not required to be.
Correct, because we're not adopting this evening, while a public hearing is required for public comment, this item was not noticed because we're not adopting this evening.
Okay, so we can just move on to the staff item. Okay, so
Correct.
this is going to be presented by our City Attorney, Monica Castillo. Thank you.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I won't belabor this too much. This item has been before you several times. As a reminder, this is a first reading that was of an ordinance to regulate successive rent increase applications at mobile home parks. This was referred back for reintroduction after some amendments were made. Generally speaking, once a park application has been denied, they may not reapply within 12 months of that denial if the second application they wish to reapply under is based on substantially the same facts, same theories, and that denial was decided on the merits or is under judicial review. And there's an exception to that. If there is a material change in circumstances, then they may apply, but they need to meet the criteria for a material change in circumstances. So that summarizes what this ordinance would do if introduced this evening and moved on for a second reading. That concludes my report.
Thank you, City Attorney Monica Castillo. And we don't have any public comment. We have had quite a bit, and so I think the message is getting out that this council is acting on this. So, any questions for our city attorney on this item? Go ahead.
Actually, just a comment, because I appreciate that though the process went a little longer, I know that we asked you to do extra research on this to make sure that we had it, especially on new items that have been brought up, to make sure that everything was covered before we went forward. I appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else? And we also thank you for your time, Monica Castillo, very much. Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion on item 11A.
So moved.
Been moved by Councilmember Chavez.
I'm sorry, you have to introduce it by title,
Oh, go ahead.
first reading.
Introduce, waive first reading of and read by title only ordinance number 1353, entitled an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Santa Paula amending Chapter 152 mobile homes and mobile home parks of the Santa Paula Municipal Code to regulate successive rent increase applications and finding the ordinance exempt from the Environmental Quality Act.
Very good. So it's been moved by Councilmember Chavez. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, it's been seconded by Councilmember Nellis. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Thank you very much, and thank you, Monica Castillo. Okay, we'll move on now to number 12, action items 12A, St. Francis Dam Flood Path Project Conceptual Design, and this will be presented by Director Greg Barnes, our Parks and Rec Director. I do just want to disclose that I am a board member on the Board of Directors for the Santa Paula Historical Society. I do own property, but it is not within the 500-foot conflict zone of the proposed project.
All right, thank you, Mayor, Council. So this evening, the item you have in front of you for consideration is a project that was brought forward by Chris Wilson, Doug Nelson, and the Santa Paula Historical Society. Mr. Wilson and Mr. Nelson are here this evening and are going to present the project, so I'm just kind of here to start it off. But it is for the St. Francis Dam Flood Path Monument, which should be located in Railroad Plaza Park next to the Granite Ball Fountain. I just want to take you, I'm just going to quickly talk about the process for approval of this project. And then, do we have enough handouts? Okay. I'm going to talk about the process for approval of this project, and then I'll invite Mr. Nelson and Mr. Wilson up to take it from there and kind of share the project and the funding components of it. So tonight we're here for your review of the conceptual design and proposal. If council decides that you're comfortable with this and want to move this forward, there still would be additional steps. The group would need to take this, or the Historical Society would need to take their plans to the Ventura County Transportation Commission for approval. It would require them to get a right of entry permit from Sierra Northern, the railway operator. Then we would return to City Council with an MOU to allow for site improvements at that point, after those approvals have been met. After if an MOU is approved and executed, they're hoping to complete this project by March 12th of 2028, when the Centennial I'm not saying it right. Yeah, I'll take it there. Event, it would be held. So they're here this evening to present that to you. I'd like to invite Mr. Nelson and Mr. Wilson up. Also, Jennifer Heighton with the Santa Paula Historical Society is here and can answer any questions that you might have as well. So I don't know who's going to, Doug's coming up first. Okay, clicker, there's your pointer. All right.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, thank you for having us here tonight. I have to tell you that I feel really honored the timing for this presentation is really something, because almost exactly 30 years ago, as of March of 1996, I was here at the Chambers presenting our design conceptual master plan and downtown design criteria for not only Railroad Plaza, but for our historic downtown improvement project, for those of you who may remember that. But that was the beginning of quite a lengthy process of many phase projects that have evolved specifically around Railroad Plaza. Before I get into the specifics of our conceptual design presentation, I think it might be worthwhile just to read one page here of Greg's background. I think we have that up there on page 2, but I'm just going to go ahead and read this because I think it gives you a pretty good overview of our proposed St. Francis Dam flood path monument. On March 12, 1928, the failure of the St. Francis Dam released a catastrophic flood that swept through the Santa Clara River Valley, devastating communities and resulting in the loss of more than 400 lives. The floodwaters traveled through the region during the early morning hours. Specifically, the dam completely failed at just a couple minutes before the hour of midnight, and it covered about 54 miles as it made its way down the Santa Clara River Valley, and it impacted 6 towns and communities, including the city of Santa Paula. The disaster remains one of the most significant civil engineering failures in California history and has had a lasting impact on the region and its residents. In the years since the tragedy, local historians, community members, and descendants of those affected have continued efforts to ensure the event is remembered and its lessons preserved. The Santa Paula Historical Society has expressed interest in commemorating the centennial event locally through the installation of this permanent monument within the Railroad Plaza Park. Due to my involvement in the planning of Railroad Plaza 30 years ago, needless to say, I'm very familiar with all the specific design elements that we feel are consistent with everything that has been built over the last 30 years. And that starts with phase 1 in the late 90s and around the year 2000. We did extensive renovations and remodeling around the historic Santa Paula, Southern Pacific Railroad Depot. And it's one of the few depots that's still on its original foundations. So it's a very, very important building here in Santa Paula, and it's just strategically located right across the street from our proposed St. Francis Dam flood path monument. So the linkage, if you will, of other historic monuments and buildings and memorials that have been built over the years is the police memorial, which is right to the west of the depot. We have the gazebo, we have the public restroom, and further down we have the farm worker memorial on the corner of 9th and Santa Barbara Street. So we have this beautiful four-block linear park that extends, again, from 9th all the way down to Ojai. And the linkage, whether it's along that Santa Barbara Street, it does spread out its fingers into other areas. And just down the street from what this proposed location is our Santa Paula Art Museum within just a half a block walking distance. And then a full block walking distance is our oil museum. So some of the vision of what we intended to do here with that master plan for Railroad Plaza was to attract visitors to Santa Paula who not only might have interest in the history of our unique location, but just to come and shop, see museums, spread their dollars around town. I mean, this was intended to be an economic development effort, not just a design effort. And even though this St. Francis Dam flood path monument might seem like it's a benign project, it actually will just enhance further that overall vision for economic development to get people out of their cars, walking around town. Santa Paula is a walkable city, as we know. And so this is going to be a very, very good project that fits that criteria. I mentioned the 54-mile flood path. If we could just move to the design drawings and specifically the you can tell I'm retired because I don't use one of these anymore. The one I have at home is the batteries ran out about 15 years ago. This is a conceptual site plan of our project. Just to orientate you, this is 10th Street. This is our Santa Barbara Street corridor. This is the Granite Ball. This is the Warning, which is that beautiful steel, bronze sculpture that Eric Richards did back 25 years ago, celebrating the 75th anniversary of the St. Francis Dam disaster. So this is just has a continuum to it, the fact that now we have our 100th centennial project wrapping itself around the Granite Ball and down around Eric Richards' sculpture and then opening out onto 10th Street. The decorative clock stone monuments, and these denote the communities. I mentioned that 54-mile flood path. As it came down the Santa Clara River, and this is the location that we're showing for the actual dam site, we will be modeling what we call the tombstone. When all the hydraulics structurally removed what amounted to just huge, large chunks of reinforced concrete, there was left a monolithic, literally looked like a tombstone, and it stood there for many, many years. So we will model that. We will also locate some rather large boulders that are on site. That will be part of that location. And as we start that flood path, we're going to be using a decorative tile material here that will denote not only the flow of the water, but let's just call it the lack of debris starting at the very beginning of the dam site, because you just imagine the 35 million gallons of water coming out of this dam site, coming down towards Saugus being right here, which is now Santa Clarita. And as it moves down the valley, we have Rancho Cumulus, Piru. We have Fillmore. And here we have Santa Paula, Saticoy, and Ventura. denoting, again, it's opening out onto the Pacific Ocean. Each of these decorative stone monuments will have not only the time that the flood reached each town, but it will also denote the speed of the wave as it came through. In other words, for Santa Paula, the debris flow reached us at 3:05 a.m., and it was traveling at that point at 11.2 miles per hour. You can just imagine as this thing was going down the valley, it just continued to build up more and more debris. So needless to say, by the time it got to the Pacific Ocean in Ventura, it was traveling at about half the speed of what it was when it came into Santa Paula at 11.2 miles per hour. The interpretive walk that is along the path of devastation, I think I mentioned before, will be constructed out of a combination of decorative tile and some natural stone and some other materials that we're still working on. This is truly a work in progress, but in terms of trying to make all the design elements comply with what we've built elsewhere in the Railroad Plaza, we want to make sure, number one, that they are well detailed, they're of high quality, and the life cycle of these projects, we need to have at least 50 years out. In other words, this is the kind of project that needs to stand the test of time. So for each of the actual decorative clock stone monuments, the time and the speed will be provided in a bronze plaque that will be embedded on the, here we go. Don't even need help from Greg on that one. Here you go with a pretty good representation of one of those stone clocks. Here's Eric Richards' sculpture, and you can start seeing how all of these stone monuments work their way down. This again is Santa Paula in this location right there. I'm going to have Chris Wilson come up and talk a little bit about funding and probable construction costs. But I want to make sure that everybody realizes that this is truly a community-driven project. And it's community-driven like a lot of the other projects we've done in the past. This whole community park that we're building this on was community-driven, community-funded. And in the spirit of that, we are following a good example of Chris Wilson's father, Roy Wilson Jr., who spearheaded the construction of that park, and it stands as a testimony to his vision. So the key here that Chris will be talking about is community funding, no public money. So with that, Chris, would you please come up and...
Thank you, sir. I don't know if I do. Thank you all for having us tonight and entertaining this project. I'm glad to be following in my father's footsteps after he helped get the Railroad Community Park going with Doug and Pacific Coast Land Design's help. We have a budget that we just got in this afternoon, so we're not really ready to talk about exact numbers, but it's in the order of $200,000 to $300,000. We have so far raised over $100,000 from a couple of local donors, and we have I reached out to some people today about contacting the LADWP. As a government agency, I don't know how good we can do with them as a funding source, but perhaps they can lead us to donors, or maybe they have some philanthropic arm. Also, Edison, Southern California Edison, lost a lot of employees in a work camp east of Fillmore, and So looking to turn to them for funding. But we're not looking for any money from the city. We're intending to raise all the money ourselves, just like my father did for the Railroad Community Park. He did that through Rotary. We're doing this one through the Historical Society with Jennifer's help. And we've already paid out a little bit to Pacific Coast Land Design, who did all the original railroad corridor work, and they've been quite helpful. And I think we're on a good trajectory to have this done, hopefully easily by the 2-year deadline. But we, like we saw earlier, we've got to go to VCTC and Sierra Northern and back to you guys and all that. So we need to keep this moving, and Greg's been very helpful in helping us look at the timeline and make sure we don't see any insurmountable obstacles at this point. So we're committed to bringing another cool project to Santa Paula.
Awesome.
Any questions?
Good, Councilmember Chavez.
If folks wanted to donate towards the cause, how do they do that?
They would go directly to the Santa Paula Historical Society. I don't have a QR code for you to pop up there if I were on it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
We will be starting a fundraising campaign as soon as we know the numbers, and we will put it out there. So
Yeah. Could you come up to the mic and be on TV?
Council members, Mayor. We'll be starting, as soon as we have the numbers, we'll be starting an official campaign, and we will have the information out there so that everybody will know where to donate.
Great, thank you.
Go ahead, Councilmember Cornell.
I think this is a really meaningful project, and I'm quite certain that the public will support this, so I'm not concerned that you're going to get the funding for this. I have two things. One is a small, minor thing. The way the project looks, it looks like it's pretty maintenance-free, because sometimes there are art installations, and then it becomes a city project to maintain it, and that looks like it's very easy to maintain just by nature, I think, so.
I think that's true, and there is actually a little bit, where's the laser beam? Right there. This is shown as grass, and the current state standards don't allow for that small of an area of grass because of the maintenance hassle. And so I think that will be something that we have to go back to the landscape architects for a little more. They're showing some plants in there now rather than grass, so it's easier to maintain. But the concept is predominantly concrete on the ground, and if anything, it's reducing the amount of grass overall in the park, but not to a significant extent. Thankfully, we've got our nice new park in town and got more grass that's, more easily enjoyed by citizens.
And if you'll indulge me, it reminds me a lot of a project in Belfast. There's a Titanic museum there, and outside on the grounds are pavers where you see the countries in the ocean, either light or dark, for the Titanic, with just a simple brass line of where the Titanic went and then where the disaster was, with the longitude and latitude in a brass plaque there, and then a dotted line to a pixelated United States of where it was intended to go. So it too is the ability to walk along and remember a disaster and how it took place. And it's really emotional and very effective. So I can see that in this project as well, to be able to walk along and see each city and the change of the water and all of that. It's been, I just really commend you. It's really well thought out, and I can really visualize it, having pictured something on a similar disaster half a world away. And I think it's wonderful. I think it's really well thought out.
Thank you for your comments regarding the Titanic comparison. With regard to that whole issue, with regard to the issue of being able to have context and longitude and latitude, we actually are going to be showing the bridges that get, for example, the Bardstown Bridge in Fillmore, our own 12th Street Bridge, what used to be the original bridge in Saticoy. Those will all be in different material than the actual flood path itself, but yet they all form, kind of help the visitor roaming the flood path to get a little bit more perspective in context. So.
Absolutely, I can see that. It's actually an emotional journey that someone would take as they follow along and experience the disaster step by step. So I think it's a wonderful concept. Thank you.
Any other questions for our presenters?
Hi, Chris. It's nice to see Chris. I used to see him on school board, but I don't get to see him anymore. But I want to thank all of you for the presentation. I live just 3 blocks from there, so I'm really excited to see that come to life and be able to walk through there and enjoy it. I think that as it is now, I walk through there, I see people walking through it, but this is going to be a great space to attract people on weekends when they're driving up to Ojai or coming back down. And the story that it tells is wonderful. So thank you for the creativity and the presentation and everything you've put into it so far. I'm excited to see it come to life.
Well, again, thank you for your presentation. I share your enthusiasm with what's happened in the past as far as memorials. At the 90th, there was a big memorial remembrance at Ebell Park, and there's going to be a full day of activities on the Centennial. So thank you.
Motion to approve the San Francis Dam Project conceptual design and direct staff to return with an MOU with the Santa Paula Historical Society once they have obtained approval from both the Ventura County Transportation Commission and Sierra Northern Railway.
Thank you, Councilmember Chavez. So it's been moved by Councilmember Chavez, and I think I heard a...
I think both, but I'll take it.
Okay. I heard a second by Councilmember Cornejo. Is there any discussion on this item? All right, seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. Item carries. Thank you so much. Good luck on the project. Okay, we're going to move on to action item 12B, resolution number 7609, authorizing operational and final acceptance of 330 water pressure zone facilities and supporting improvements, final acceptance of a portion of 330 water pressure zone line, and acceptance of property interests associated with the facilities and improvements harvest at Limoneira. And this is going to be presented by our City Attorney, Monica Castillo.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Council. Before you tonight is a resolution that that would accept in 2 phases of our water pressure zone facilities that Lennar, the developer of the future neighborhood called the Foothill neighborhood, is responsible for constructing under our development agreement. So what this resolution will do, again, is authorize our Public Works Director to accept in 2 steps these facilities. And the first step would require the developer to complete a number of criteria in order to place these facilities into operation. And I will name but a few. These are described in much more detail in the resolution, but some to highlight are receiving a Department of Drinking Water permit to operate the tanks. And I'll go ahead and share this visual. But this system consists of a number of parts. We have 2 750,000-gallon tanks that are under construction, and then we also have that connected to a booster pump station that is also under construction. These two together will be linked, and the booster pump station generates enough power to propel water up to the higher elevation. So these are what Lennar is asking the city to accept. The other requirement that we are going to negotiate before the director is authorized to accept these facilities for operational purposes is an agreement between Lennar and the city that will establish our respective rights and responsibilities until there's a final acceptance of these facilities. Final acceptance is when all the facilities are complete, all the necessary securities are deposited with the city to ensure the project is bonded and insured, and also they would also have to deed to the city certain property for an access road so that we can go and maintain the two tanks, we call them the upper tanks. And then once that final acceptance occurs, then those properties will be part of the city system in our ownership. I did want to, it's very tiny, but you can see it also in your report, but these are the upper tanks. Here's the booster pump. And then we will have an easement deed for our city crew to access and maintain the upper tanks. In addition, we will be accepting from.
I'm putting the arrow on this screen here for you if you need, so I can follow that for you.
Oh.
So it'll show on the other screens. They can't.
It doesn't affect you.
Oh, I see, okay. And then also part of this resolution is a water pipeline here that the master developer, Limoneira Lewis, constructed and is dedicating to the city. So the resolution would also finalize acceptance of this component of the water facility system.
Just for clarification, is that so that it connects to the Crosstown pipeline?
The completion of the acceptance of these facilities will be for the purpose of serving the east side of town. Once the Crosstown pipeline is constructed, it obviously will have redundancy for the entire city.
Is that why the pipe that the city attorney just mentioned is what's going to be the connecting piece to that pipeline?
Well, so the Crosstown pipeline, and either our staff or Mr. Luletta can describe that further, will happen over where the new bridge is. So it'll come further down adjacent to the park and then go west.
Yeah, so this is the Foothill neighborhood under construction. Just to orient us here. And if there are any other questions, I can answer those, but there will be, project will be completed in phases, and we will be negotiating that agreement with Lennar during that interim phase between operational and final acceptance.
Go ahead, Councilmember Chavez.
Just for the record, can you, I just want to make sure there's no action or perceived conflict of interest, correct? Because I'm a property owner at Harvest because of the distance factor?
Well, one, you are outside the 500-foot radius.
Thank you.
And two, the benefits from this new system is no different from the benefits to the public in general, so.
Just wanted for the record. Thank you.
Councilmember Cornejo.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just wanted to point out a correction that on the resolution that I pointed out to City Manager. In our packet, it's page 68. It's the first page of the resolution, which is section 1, letter E, small letter C. It says 2 750-gallon tanks, which should have either a K or 3 zeros next to it. It should be 750,000 tanks. So it's just obviously clerical. I'm sure they're called 750s, but anyway.
No, that is a clerical error, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, got it.
That concludes my report. If there are any questions, we have Lennar here, Amy Weaver, a project manager for Lennar, and we might have Mr. Luletta on Zoom. He is there. And we also have our Public Works Director and our Water Superintendent.
Water Superintendent. So
Motion to adopt resolution number 7609, authorizing operation and final acceptance of 330 water pressure zone facilities and supporting improvements, final acceptance of a portion of 330 water pressure zone line, and acceptance of property interests associated with the facilities and improvements as with corrections.
moved by Councilmember Chavez. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Cornejo. Any discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Very good, this item passes. Thank you very much for staff and our consultants and Frank and Dale for being in the room as well. All right, we'll move on now to 12C, MOU with the Santa Paula Chamber of Commerce and the Alchemist Club of Santa Paula for community events or support, and it'll be presented by our Parks and Recreation Director, Greg Barnes.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So a little over a month ago, you held a study session to specifically discuss this, the support for our ongoing community events, both Cruise Night and the Labor Day Parade and the holiday Christmas Parade that are held annually. Staff has brought back before you this evening an MOU with both the Santa Paula Chamber of Commerce and the Optimist Club of Santa Paula per your direction for consideration this evening. There are representatives of both organizations here this evening if you have any specific questions for them. I do want to point out that under, just so we're informed and being transparent, the support that the city would provide in a dollar amount based on last year's cost for the totality of the three events was a little over $30,000 in city services. The MOUs do require, or there's an understanding that 50% of any revenue raised from the events, this would help come to the city to reimburse us for our city services. And I did put in the fiscal impact of the staff report. I was notified, and the number could be greater at this point in time, but that the chamber has already raised a little over $15,000 for Cruise Night. So there is active effort, and in good faith, they're out there raising funds that in turn will come and help offset some of our costs for city services as well. So you have the MOUs in front of you this evening for consideration. Again, there are representatives from both organizations here that can answer any questions, but with that, I will leave it to you. If you have
Thank you,
questions
Director
for me.
Barnes. Any questions from council? Councilmember Chavez?
I have a few. The first one is, in November, we approved an agreement with the chamber, right?
Their contract.
Correct.
Right.
This would be technically an extension of that, or an amendment to that original contract? And are we comparing and contrasting what we already have within that contract to what's being given additionally, just for transparency purposes?
Do you want to answer that? Or-
Why don't you take a stab and I'll,
Okay. This is outside of that, so this is a separate understanding. It's for multiple years, which will allow us to continue to operate. It could be addressed in future contracts with the chamber, but it's really meant to be standalone, so this would address that event.
and so I would just contribute, council members, that the contract with the chamber only had them managing Cruise Night through June, not beyond July. So this is a helpful supplement to that agreement, but it doesn't change the nature of that agreement so much as gives us the opportunity to extend the management, if you will, oversight of Cruise Night specifically.
Okay. And then my follow-up question would be, I know that there was delays in getting invoices on time to the chamber, and are there currently any outstanding invoices? Have we closed the books on that chapter and are moving on? Where do we fall with what's been obligated from the previous contract?
So they have the invoices, and They have made some payments towards them. There's still a balance due, but we're working with them to get the invoices paid for whatever events and close them out. They've recognized what is due. We've come to that agreement, and they are paying towards those.
Okay, and then I know during the study session, we talked about down payment requirements, where we weren't collecting things, but then we were going to shift to collecting them. How does the down payment for anything on this agreement, what does that look
So
like?
that's outside of this, because this agreement kind of shares responsibility. The city is being responsible for city services, and whether it's the chamber or the Optimist Club, are responsible for program or event costs, entertainment, stages, awards, extra restrooms, things of that nature are their responsibility. So there's a shared responsibility and cost, so there is no down payment to it. They still need to fill out permitting, and so that we make sure we have permitting, and it still goes through departments, so there's coordination for any street closures and things. There is no application fee and those things. Those would be our responsibility, so we assist them with that process. Once the event is over or the series of cruise nights are over, then that's when we will settle up gross revenues, and the city will receive 50% of whatever those gross revenues are to reimburse us for city services up to our costs. So, and we'll track that. We would still track our costs like we would. So for police services or street closures, we'll track our time and employee time. We'll total that out at the end, so we'll know what our costs were, and then collect revenue to be reimbursed.
And one of the things that we spoke about was having clearer definition about what are actual costs that we incur versus those that are just the total cost, right? So for instance, let's say we have 3 police officers that are working that day. If they're already on the clock, are we charging them for the time that they're already scheduled? Or are we just charging them for the gap that would exist for additional services? Another thing would be public works. If somebody has to set up at 3:30 and then has to tear down at 9, are we paying them overtime, or are we just adjusting their schedule so that they're working within the 8 hours? I guess and it comes down to being flexible so that we don't add additional costs that, as a co-partner or collaborator or sponsor, we should technically waive or not charge.
So that would be up to the department heads, but your point is noted. We need to make sure we're using our resources wisely, that we're, using it within the hour. Typically, if it's within business hours, if you will, if people are already on the clock, then they're already on the clock, right? That's a soft cost, if you will, because we're already here. So I think typically we charge for, the tough ones are like on off Fridays, when there's a cruise night and staff have to come in to close things, or close streets and things of that nature. But your point is noted, and that would be up to the department heads to really work with how they staff things, how we use our resources for the billable time, if you will. Yeah. But like the permitting costs and the encroachment permit costs and things like that are also our burden now. So we're helping them process a permit so that it's an organized event and we know what resources need to be done, but we're not charging the permit fees, and those won't be charged towards them as part of the cost.
Where in the past, we would give them a bill, and then we would waive a percentage, right?
So
That was kind of what we did with the parades?
Correct. So the past practice of council, at least the last few years, has been to give them 50%, right? And so we project what the cost or have a cost estimate, and then we settle up at the end. And then whatever that true cost is, we would waive 50% of it based on council's direction. This is more upfront. We're going to work as partners to host this event, and in good faith are asking them to look for sponsors and try and find revenue to help reimburse us for our costs of city services, and we would settle at the end of the events. But they're not burdened with it. So if our costs were $5,000 as a city and they had some challenges with fundraising and they raised $3,000 for the event, then we're going to get $1,500, and the city is going to be responsible for the rest of those costs.
And the contract says that they have to, I guess, settle their bill within 30 days. Is that really feasible of a timeline?
It can be. We need to make sure we're closing out certain things like payroll and things and doing that. But I think we're flexible too. I mean, like, I think we need to be good partners. They might still be collecting or working through certain numbers or things they're doing, and we might have to do the same. So I think this is just really, it kind of more depicts a good partnership with us and the community groups to put these events on.
I guess, does the language in the contract allow for that flexibility so that both sides can find compromise if there's ever a delay with maybe a payment or from a pledge, or, things happen sometimes, right? And 30 days in a paper-based process, knowing that we are very paper-based and getting approvals through departments, is that language that exists in the contract allow for that flexibility, since it's stating that they have to settle their bill within 30 days?
Well, council member, so in any contract, the parties can negotiate to act in good faith, be reasonable, not to enforce certain provisions. But in that case, you would want to document that. So sounds like there is a partnership here where the parties could interact in good faith.
Yes.
And then my last question of my series of questions, but would be, since we have the representatives from the chamber and the Sir Optimus, can you share with us how the community or the public can support being involved, engaged, so that there's no misunderstanding that, oh, you have to be a Sir Optimist in order to be part of it, or a chamber member? Like, what does that look like for the community?
Hi, Mayor, council members, city staff. My name's Elena Brokaw. I am the proud chair of the board of the Chamber of Commerce. First of all, I want to say we're so thankful to the staff for coming up with this solution, because we were really not sure how we were going to be able to continue to be a part of Cruise Night, which we know is so important to the identity of Santa Paula and to the community. Cruise Night is a wonderful event. It's going to happen 5 times. The first one is going to be on May 1st. Everybody is welcome. The best thing you can do is come down and have a great time. If you want to support us as a volunteer, we would love to have you there. We have sponsorships at all levels, from $250 for the season up to $5,000 for the season. As Greg said, the community has come out with a huge surge of support for this event, and I am sure that we are going to be able to cut a check for the city council, which is going to greatly alleviate the city burdens of putting on something like this. So again, very thankful, very proud to be a part of this, and happy to answer any other questions.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have some questions, but I don't know if they would be for you or if they would be great questions. So you answered some of them, so I'm looking through them so I don't sound, so it's not redundant. Is there any insurance coverage that's required from the Chamber or the Optimist Club for the cruise nights?
Yes, sorry, excuse me. Yes, there is. So part of their MOU, actually number 7 on both MOUs, does require for them to have insurance with limits acceptable to the city. That's what it states there, along with automobile liability insurance if applicable, and then workers' comp if that's required as well. So they do have to supply insurance documentation to the city.
And, okay, who would be responsible if there's an accident or injury or any property damage during the event?
Well, I think it's a joint event, so I would defer to our city attorney or our risk management, but we're both responsible parties because we're both putting the event on together.
And so you answered one of the questions, but I just want to make sure I understand. If the event underperforms and does not, not enough money is made to pay back the city, then the city absorbs that cost?
Yes.
And where would that come from?
From the department budgets, from our
For
current budgets.
all departments?
Whatever department, if it's police services, it would be from the police. If it's
Whatever
from
it
Public
ties to.
Works, yeah, if it's from Parks and Rec, then we would have to absorb it into our budget.
Were any other agencies approached for taking on like cruise night?
The chamber has historically been running cruise night for the past few years, so we
Yeah.
opted to continue to work with them. So no, we did not approach other agencies.
I did see that 2 cruise nights are not happening. Was there an opportunity for any other community groups to take that on or fundraise to make those 2 happen so that we would have a full season for cruise night and not lose those 2?
We didn't reach out to other groups. As I mentioned, we're currently working with the chamber, and they had decided that they had the capacity to do 5 this season. So we have not reached out to other groups about other cruise nights. No.
What if,
I would just also contribute, we looked at some of the analytics and data from this last year in terms of the public participation. And last year, we canceled the one on 4th of July weekend because it conflicted with 4th of July.
Right.
This year, similarly, 4th of July is on Saturday, I think. And so, and Fillmore does a cruise night event either on that Friday or Saturday. So it made sense to cancel that. And the last 2 years, the April cruise night was not real well attended, in part because it was either rainy or really cold. And so, you know, April 3rd in this case this year, it seems quite early for the season. So some of the decision, it wasn't just because the chamber was having to spread out their, you know, their time and not wanting to overextend themselves, but also because we were trying to make good decisions about, you know, the best timing.
I guess I'm asking the questions because I worked for the chamber and I worked cruise night for many years. So I know the importance that it has for community members, but also the draw that it has and how much money our businesses make from it. So it is hard for me to see that 2 of them are not happening. I've been approached by car clubs and people that bring whatever it is they bring to cruise night, and they've offered to pay for them. So I think it's unfortunate that there wasn't more time, or that space wasn't held to have more conversations so that the full series could have happened. I understand, I hear you, but just holding the space for conversation so that community members could feel like they were part of the process of deciding if something as big as cruise night was going to be shrunk down to 5 from 7. That's pretty big for people that look forward to this time of year and who come from out of town to attend. So I know that that's unfortunate. It would have been great for more conversations to happen. Not faulting anyone specifically, I just think that it would have been nice to have that, to continue with community work and what cruise night has been. I remember how much work we put into it. I know that we worked way more time than we should have to make sure that everything was cleaned up, that people were off the street, that everything was done and everyone had a good time. But it was definitely worth it. So I just have a concern with it being such a long MOU and keeping things that way with only 5 cruise nights. Is there room to have a conversation on bringing it back to 7, or having other community groups come together or be a part of the work to make cruise night happen? I understand the chamber's been the one that's led it. I worked the cruise nights for a long time. But is there room for other groups to come in and help with fundraising, or bring in more volunteers to make cruise night what it was, or to take on the cruise nights that are not part of this 5 series so that the full 7 can happen? I don't know who that question is for, but.
I think, Councilmember, I think there's always room for conversation. So I think we're always open to that. I think the chamber's made it clear that they're always looking for more help and volunteers and funding and opportunity. So I would say yes to the question, is there an opportunity to have those discussions? I also know that this specific timeline, we were under a crunch to kind of get something put together so that we could have a cruise night season this year.
No, I understand.
And so, but going forward, is there opportunity? 100%. There's always opportunity to have conversations, to grow things, to find more opportunity, to include more people. So yes to that question.
So the open invoices that there still is because of the delay in getting them to the chamber or whatever it was, the break that's given in the cost for covering cruise night, would that same consideration be given to another community group that comes in and wants to take on, let's say, the two that are not included?
So that's a question for council. We would have to bring that to council for your consideration.
And the $30,000 that were given to the chamber, that's only including 5 cruise nights? Or that was going
No.
towards all events?
So the 30 plus, that was inclusive of cruise night, and that was based on last year's costs for a cruise night, the both parades. So it was just to kind of give you a look at supporting these events, the 2 parades and the 5 cruise nights, what our estimated costs or the potential cost to the city could be. I believe in the staff report, it had what it was for cruise night. Let me bring it up. So for cruise night last year, the costs were a little over $20,000. So the other $10,000, $13,000 were for the parades.
And the parade, the holiday parade is going to be changed from night to day? Is that what's going to happen with it?
Correct. Do you want to speak to that, Ron, or? Sure. Okay.
I'm trying to keep a list of all the questions. Yeah, I've talked out among, first of all, I've heard from a lot of people in the community, it's going to be called the Christmas Parade. We're going to go back to the original name that it had for 70 years. It's going to be called the Christmas Parade. If people want to call it the Holiday Parade, they can, and there has been, in my opinion, based on what people have told me, I know there's some people that want it at night, but the majority of people that I hear in town are saying they would rather have a morning parade on Saturday, which includes the downtown merchants. I said before at the workshop that we had that when you have the nighttime parade, there are people that don't get to attend the parade, whether they're young kids or the seniors, those kind of folks. So it's been decided, it's overwhelming. I think that people want it on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. And I've told people that, they're talking about it, and I'm getting people commenting that that's what they wanted.
Where was that meeting?
Right here.
And I'm just curious, because I
It was a
didn't attend.
workshop.
I didn't know that
It was a
it
council
happened.
workshop, and you weren't there.
No, I wasn't,
So-
obviously. And the feedback that you've gotten is from
People around the community.
diverse stakeholders, just business owners? Like, I'm asking.
All across the community, whether it be participants, merchants, people in the community, people, my team that's out talking to people to be in the parade, or they talk to people within the community. It's been from all parts of the community.
I'm asking because these are questions being asked of me. I'm the
that's
one
fair.
sitting up here, so I have to ask the questions because that's part of my job here. I've worked the parades too. I volunteered, and I think that that's another great piece of what we do here in Santa Paula. I was just curious because, like you said, I wasn't at that workshop.
Yeah.
So I want to understand so that I can answer those questions that are being asked of me.
I think the other part of it too, to be quite honest, from a parader's point of view, people working the parade, it's a lot more dangerous at night for the people working the parade without having all the lighting you need and trucks and cars going up and down the streets when you're doing the lineup. And we've had near misses, and from a safety point of view, I have people that are volunteers with the parade, they won't work it at night because it is unsafe. There aren't enough lights on the streets, especially on Santa Barbara Street lining up. We had one night we had 3 lanes and a truck going the wrong way. So it needs the daylight to get it put up right.
I think that's all my list of questions, but thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, to the question that I had about opening it up to other groups, because I have had people reach out for that specifically. Since this is a contract or the MOU that is for years, what would that look like if somebody were to become a part of it, say, next year? Because this MOU would be in place, right? I'm looking at Greg because I think it's a great question.
Is this, what event are you talking about?
Any of it.
Okay.
I just
Well,
wanted to understand.
I would recommend if there's anybody who's interested in getting involved, who wants to volunteer or financially wants to contribute, to talk with the chamber or talk with the Optimist Club, because I think that's the most beneficial way to do it, so that the city has a partner that we recognize that we're trying to work with, an organization, but we can still be inclusive of anyone in the community that wants to get involved, right?
Right.
And on whatever that looks like. Maybe they would like to help run an extra cruise night and work with the chamber to do
I
that.
think that's
or-
what I've heard.
Or work with the Optimists and volunteer. I can tell you the conversations we've had, we've committed to the Optimists of having more of a committee. So this last holiday season, we had a committee that really worked to put the parade together, right? And I think that was beneficial. We met on a regular basis, and we've committed to doing that again. So that's where there's opportunity for people to get involved and feel like they're part of the planning of the events, volunteer for the events, donate if there's someone who just wants to donate to help fund the events because it's meaningful to them. I think there's those opportunities, but just they can either reach out to me and I can help connect them, or they can reach out directly to one of the organizations. I'm sure they'd be happy to take their call, because I think one of the other things, and we've all talked about this, is not being in this position again, where we're trying to figure out how to make sure these events continue to run.
We're so
Right.
pressing, I understand.
Right, and so getting more people involved, that when, you know, Ron, you've been running the Labor Day Parade for how many years for the holiday? You were involved prior? A lot of years. Yeah, he'd like to, Alma's here helping with it, and it's time to kind of transition and get other people involved that can help continue these events and make sure that they thrive for years to come. So I think it's welcomed, and you can please share that message with those that are asking. Just reach out to us, and we can connect them.
One last question. The people that will be working cruise night, have they worked cruise night before? Do they have experience in working it, like keeping the same kind of like, what it's known to be, how the time that the cars park, the whole deal?
So that's a question I would have to ask Elena to answer.
We're piecing it together, Gabby, but actually, we could use all the help that we can get. So if you or someone else is willing to help guide us with that, that would be
I
amazing.
wish I had the time to do what I used
Yeah.
to do before.
Yeah, I
the
know, me
energy.
too.
But I'm just asking because, again, they're questions that I've been asked, and I want whoever does watch us, or whoever watches and tells other people, or whoever's asking me, to understand exactly what it is or what could be helpful to keep what we have and then add to it in hopes of those people asking. One other question, if somebody wants to take on one of those, I don't know if it's you or if someone wants to take on one of the cruise nights that's not being covered by the chamber, is it required for them to have a nonprofit or a certain something to be able to take that on? Or can it just be a community group?
So it's not a requirement that they're a nonprofit, but they do have to have liability insurance, and they have to do all those, check those dots. But if someone's interested, we can get them a special event application, and there it describes all the requirements to hold a special event.
application, okay.
Correct.
And they can come through the process in order to get the council's endorsement of that event, correct? Like any other event?
Correct, right. Staff can't just
No.
give them the same. It would have to come back to council,
Right,
right?
but the first step, if there was a group if there was someone in that group that wanted to lead the effort, the first step would be contacting your department for that
Get a special
application.
event application, correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you for indulging me in all the questions. I just needed to do it so everyone could understand.
Councilmember Cornell, did you have a question?
I have a comment and a correction.
Okay.
First of all, I want to express my gratitude for the chamber and for the Optimists for stepping up to keep these signature events going. That's huge, it's important, and you're reliable and have done it in the past, and so we have a place to move forward with, and I'm very grateful for that. And the other thing that it's a minor correction on this. In the staff report, it mentions the holiday or Christmas parade, November, December, and the MOU just mentions December. So I wanted to make sure that that's corrected because it's usually November.
Thank you for bringing that up. It has been corrected.
Great.
Thank for mentioning it, because I actually failed to mention that. That's been corrected, and it was sent to the city clerk with that
Perfect.
correction.
Okay, thank you. That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, that segues into, did you have something to add to this?
Let me answer some questions, unless there was a couple of questions.
Which question?
Well, it was, I'm sorry. Well, first of all, you know who I am, and maybe, you know, Alma's the president of the club, and she'll be signing the MOU. Getting the volunteers is not a problem. We're looking for more volunteers to help out. That's important. So anybody that wants to join, please join us. And I want to compliment Greg, because we did it with a couple of events where we have this team effort with the staff and everything. It really works out. We're working on the 4th of July the same way. The dollars part of it, you ask, can we pay within 30 days? Yes, we can, because we collect the money for the parades before the parade. It doesn't do any good to collect after. Certainly, if we collected any money after we paid off the 50%, if something else came in, we would give the check, give the half to the city. That's not an issue. We would take care of it. But we would be able to give that within a day. Probably write the check the next time. What was the other thing? Yeah, and so the 30 days, that doesn't really have anything to do with us. That's because they're not going to be giving us any more bills and all that. I know one other thing I'd say about somebody taking over any of these events, in our MOU, the 501c3, we have to have access to a 501c3. If people were going to donate to us and it wants to be a tax-deductible donation, you have to have a 501c3, and I believe the chamber has that. I'm sure they do. And we do have it through the Optimist Club at the Optimist International Foundation is a 501c3. So we have that worked out, just to answer that question. Unless whoever put on the parade or an event was going to get all the money out of their pocket somehow and not do any tax deductions. That's all I had to add to that, just.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Merson. Alma, do you have anything to add? Okay.
I just want to correct Councilman Chavez. We are the Optimist Club. The Sir Optimist Club is a totally different club.
Yeah, they folded years ago.
Can I speak on the car show?
In just a few minutes, I'll be there. I got your card.
Real quick, one, things have come together in a very short timeline, so I appreciate everybody working together, The one thing I would say regarding the contract, and I think, Greg, you mentioned the piece about committees, right, and the importance of committees. I think that structure of allowing other people to come in and lend their talents and their treasure and their flavor really is helpful to the community. And so if there are committees that are set up, if that can be announced publicly so the community knows how they can get involved, and so they're not going to somebody and then they don't get a call back, or there's actually a committee and there's some structure there so people are invited to participate. The thing I would mention on the contract, and I would say this for any contract, is where is the reporting? If we have a contract, we have a term of 5 years, right? I don't see a reporting component to this. And so normally contracts would have, you provide an annual report twice a year, or however it is. How are we going to assess whether something's successful or not? And this is just across the board in any contract. So I would state if I missed something on the contract, if you can share that. However, if I haven't, I think there needs to be something in the contract that allows us to review or get an update on the progress of the contract itself, because we're going into a term of 5 years. And even though there's a termination clause, I prefer the back and forth of sharing of progress. And so I would like to recommend that we somehow ensure that this council gets updated so we can measure if the 5 terms is something that's feasible.
I would say to that, just to mention too, that I could see this being part of our department report, because it's a partnership and we'll be working closely with them, that we would be reporting out on, the success of cruise nights or the parades and kind of updating you all on that. We definitely can kind of have recap reports if you'd like, and after the events are held, or come before council and give an update on how the season went or how our parade season went for the year. I definitely think the groups would be willing to do that, and then we can also include it in our department reports.
And I would just add, especially since this is the partnerships aren't new, but the relationship of the city's involvement, how much skin we're putting in the game is new. It would be valuable, to your point, to make sure we give council that feedback. Is it working? Does it need to be fine-tuned? The good news is the proof's in the pudding, right? These events will be very visible, public. It'll be clear that they performed. So it's not like we're giving money away and then the events aren't occurring. But to your point, you know, having some input, I think, would be valuable.
All right. Okay. I want to thank everybody that came here tonight to talk about cruise night. Elena, Mr. Barnes, but you both have day jobs, and here you are at night for the chamber and, of course, for the cruise night. I have the experience of being with cruise night for, I don't know, 2 or 3 decades when it was run by the Police Officers Association. So I know how much work is involved and a lot of volunteers. I just want to point out that when I see this MOU, and there were some good points brought up tonight, and there was a lot of discussion, but regarding the MOU on page 83, obviously it says that the cruise nights to be held on a monthly basis during the months of May, June, August, September, and October, and then it says the MOU shall be effective 26 through 2031, but then it says also dates may change with mutual written agreement by the parties. I just want to caution that it seems like you're locking yourself into not having a cruise night in July, because, I mean, it says obviously dates can change, but as it's mentioned here, somebody else could come in and do it, or either host it or host a for lack of a better word, sanctioned one. And I just want to address, maybe either Mr. Barnes or Elena Brokaw can talk about, there's apparently a cruise night that's going to happen in April and in July, but it's not sponsored by the chamber. Would one of you like to talk about that and just talk about how that differs from the city's chamber-sponsored event? And basically, I mean, I can talk about the parameters, but I think both of you probably know it and what's going to happen, or what doesn't happen.
Well, to be quite frank, I don't know much about it because
Okay.
there's been no permit. It's not a permitted event. From what I can gather, it's more of a social cruise. And although it's being advertised, spontaneous probably isn't the right word, but more of just community gathering that's happening, but it's not a permitted special event.
Okay. Yeah, so it's not recognized by the chamber. So I guess I just want to clarify that the way I've been reading on social media and talking to people is somebody's organizing just an event to have a cruise where people drive up and down the street. Feel free to park, feel free to shop, feel free to mingle. But again, we don't want to give the residents a false impression that when they park their car, they can walk out like it's cruise night and the streets are closed because the cars are going to be moving. So it might add a little more effort on the police department to show up because there'll be people driving, there'll be people walking, and it presents just a public safety potential. So, and again, because it's not sponsored by the chamber, who's ever doing this has good intent. I mean, obviously, they want to bring people downtown, and but we got to be careful that it's not a recognized city or chamber event, and the street is not going to be closed. And the other thing I think that I gives me some concern is that, so are you, basically by this MOU, it kind of locks you into not having a cruise night in July. I mean, it says, you know, obviously dates can change, but somebody could come in and say, I want to have a cruise night and get all the permits and everything for July. So I guess that's kind of what you're locking yourself into this, what I see. Yeah. Sure, of course.
I don't see it that way at all. I
Okay.
see it that way this year.
Okay.
So the way that I see it is when we talk about the nights being changed by mutual agreement, it would be more, not fewer, in the future. So, and again, like Dan said, City Manager Singer said, a lot of that decision was made on the Placer AI data, which showed not the same numbers in July as we had at other times.
Right, and the one year, the 4th of July was on a Friday, and it would just compete with a lot of things. Okay, well, if you're okay with that, then we're okay with it as well. And I think it's already been mentioned about the holiday parade / Christmas parade being in December when it's actually in November, so. Yes, go ahead.
And just, Mr. Mayor, for the record, there's California State Law Assembly Bill 436, Alvarez, that cruising is not a crime, and it's been wiped out because at one point in history, it was to prevent a certain group of people from congregating. And so I think the community's trying to just find ways to come together and connect.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, I know historically that San Luis Obispo, they had a problem with people cruising. This has been quite a while ago, and the way they overcame it was they closed the street for a street fair, or, you know, what do you call it, a farmer's market. So different ways to attack different things. But yeah, certainly cruising is not illegal. It's just people need to be aware that there's going to be more than likely pedestrians as well. So, okay, with that, I think we've exhausted enough conversation unless there's any more.
You do have a speaker card for this item.
Anything else from the council? Okay, Mr. Elpidio Escobedo, you want to talk on item 12C, so we recognize you, sir.
I spoke to the lady about the car show, and yes, I was very, very pissed. Because when you talk about the car show, it's personal for me, for a lot of people. I already talked to a lot, I've tried to stay low. And yes, I've heard it from business owner, and one of them especially, two of them especially are very angry. I'm not gonna give money. My thing is, this means a lot. I've heard somebody wrote that started from Bobby and Bobby's passed away, but from the police association to bring people into the community and to do this. And this is something like me and you, we've been here a long time. And I'm thankful for the council lady we should have dialogued more. And we think that they're trying to extinguish. So we're in Fillmore, we're working with Fillmore. They're already doing events over there right away. May 2nd, go to Oxnard, stay away from Santa Paula. The mayor already addressed us over at the plaza. So yes, I stayed low, but I'm hearing a lot. I said I can't do it myself, but yes, this means a lot. I cannot say that the police officers, but you know they're still there. Aguilar and the other one in, the one that was before he was, I cannot forget his name. Anyways, it started with the police association to bring people together. This, to me, is not just a car show. It's to bring the police and the people that are in the community. We walked together, you played. You've seen how many events me and my wife, before she passed away, that we did. We volunteered. But this is not just a car show for me. This is to bring my people, my community, to see. I love seeing the city manager at Siders. I thank them for continuing to bring these events there. To some people, it might not mean that much. To me, it means a lot, a lot. And if it's in the memory of Bobby and the officers that are there, they're already screaming on Facebook. I stay out of it, but everybody's going. Fillmore's already putting one. They're dead on their downtown. They want to bring us if Santa Paula doesn't want it. And like I said, you could put an event. If we don't show up, I don't want to boycott nothing in this city. I love this city as much as you do. And you know my mother-in-law worked with you to keep you safe. The car show is not a car show for me. This is personal to me. And I agree with the council lady, we should have talked more, but I'm only one person. But now a lot of them got involved, and they're angry. They're angry. And I hope this goes tomorrow. Caprice's putting an event. They're bringing a tamborazo. I'm already setting up a table for 10 people because she's putting her money, and I want to make sure that we don't default her and any other business owner, not one Santa Paula, going to Fillmore when we have it here. Thank you.
Mr. Arpido, thank you for your time and appreciate your passion as well. Okay, with that, any more comments or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion on this item 12C. Go ahead.
Okay, I would move, let's see, that we authorize the city manager to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Santa Paula Chamber of Commerce for Cruise Night, and also authorize the city manager to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Optimist Club of Santa Paula for both the Labor Day Parade and the Holiday Christmas Parade.
All right, thank you. It's been moved by Councilmember Cornell, second by Councilmember Chavez. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone in favor or opposed, say no. All right, it passes. Thank you very much, and thank you for everyone who came and helped present and spoke as well. Elena, thank you very much for your time. And now we move on to 13 items for future agendas. Mr. City Manager, do we have anything other than what's on the list?
No, I had already pointed out the special meeting on Monday, and otherwise, regular business.
All right. With that in mind, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 8:38 PM.